Good morning from Kigali. We're here at the MWC 2025 in Rwanda, and I'm together with Tobe Okigbo. He's the Chief Corporate Services and Sustainable Officer at MTN Nigeria. Hello, Tobe.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
My privilege to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining us. MWC 2025 here in Kigali. So we see that many African countries are prioritizing inclusion and access. From your perspective, what factors are most critical to ensure that advances in technology and infrastructure benefit everyone, especially the underserved communities?
Well, to benefit the underserved communities, we need to think of critical issues like affordability. MTN is focused on that, trying to make communications affordable for everybody through our chase strategy, where we're looking at handsets, we're looking at bundling services, we're looking at affordability for everybody. When Africa talks about inclusivity, there's a tendency for us to think that certain people, those people at the bottom of the pyramid, like we want to cover them with 3G. But what we think is that inclusivity means that at the minimum, 4G should be ubiquitous. That is why, if you look at the GSMA reports, the biggest challenge is not just coverage. The biggest challenge is the handsets, the available terminals that the people can use. And that is why MTN is focusing on that, not just at the group level, but at OPCO levels like Nigeria. For us, critical factor for now, in Nigeria, we're at 87% coverage on 4G, but the gap we see is the usage gap. So we have a lot of people who are under coverage, but who are not using the internet. Of our 89 million subscribers and going, only about 47% of them use the internet consistently. And these are people who live under coverage. So the issue is that usage gap is driven by affordability of terminals. Okay, so what we're trying to do now is to close that gap. Inclusivity means bringing them on board and having them use the service. And the best and the biggest thing that we need to crack is the affordability of the devices. And we're working on that.
So what would you say comes first? Is it the infrastructure or is it the affordability of the devices? Because when you look at the usage gap, usage gap actually says people with technically connectivity, but no actual access to it. But we also have an underserved areas where we not even have connectivity.
So, thank you for that question. It has to be an integrated approach. We need to look at it from the point of view of my view, and this is a view we're driving going forward, is that every single base station we deploy should, at a minimum, be 4G. If you look at what happened in Nigeria from the inception of GSM, everybody underestimated the latent demand in the country. Everybody underestimated it. People thought that, it will not work when we started in 1999. And then when the numbers started coming in, people were amazed. It's the same thing. People want the internet because it will improve their lives, keep them connected, entertain them and all that. And I think we are underestimating the so-called underserved people, especially when we bring in things like digital literacy. I keep asking, what is digital literacy? With LLMs and all that coming in, and if we can get them to speak in our languages, which is what we're doing, okay, that issue of digital literacy, for me, falls out of the way. We need to get the infrastructure to them and get the handsets that they need, the terminals to them, and I believe they will use it. I believe we just have to have a program that works, that takes care of both the infrastructure need and the terminal need.
All right. So sustainability is now central to Africa's development agenda. So how can public and private sectors turn into shared measurable action, and how can technology drive that shift?
I'll take sustainability from two perspectives. When you say sustainability, immediately everybody thinks about climate change. When you also think about it, some people look at it from an ESG point of view, environment, social governance, and all that. I think that private sector should deliberately and intentionally work with government, okay, to ensure not just the sustainability of the industry, but the sustainability of the ecosystem in which we live. And if you look at what MTN is doing, driven from the group, look at our Apache Panda, for example, okay, where we have young people across Africa coming up with programs, bankable programs of things they think will impact the climate, will aid sustainability and all that. They have competitions across Africa, culminating in a big competition in MTN Innovation Center in South Africa, where winners are picked, and those winners, their projects are funded by MTN. So what you see is that the youth, the young people, the very strength of Africa, because the young people are the core strength of Africa, are getting involved in solving the problems of Africa on the sustainability front. Now, if you keep that side and you look at ESG as a whole, Africa's government and Africa's corporate bodies need to work together. And what the corporate bodies need to do is to realize that Africa's governments have visions for their people. In whatever you do, the way we do it at MTN, what we call shared value. You look at what government is doing and you say, in what way can what I do enhance what government is doing? That leads to partnerships. Okay? In Nigeria, for example, again, led by group, our partnership with Tomorrow.io is an example of where we're partnering with NIMET. NIMET is the Nigerian Meteorological Agency. They are responsible for predicting weather across the ecosystem, flights, farmers, all that. We've partnered with them, and the idea is to be able to deliver real-time data information to even those people we call on the side who use feature phones. If they don't have internet, they can receive it on their handsets. That's an example of shared value, where you deliberately, intentionally partner with government to deliver value. I think if Africa's corporates were to look around, see what it is they bring to the table, and were to be humble enough to realize that aside from paying taxes, they need to find areas of congruence with the governments of the countries in which they operate. They will work together, and then the word sustainability becomes real for everybody.
So what would you say should change right now? Because when we talk about public and private sector partnership, that's not a new conversation. That's a conversation we have probably the last 20 years. So what should change now from your perspective to accelerate it?
First is humility on the part of the corporate world. Okay? Some of us in the corporate world feel Africa's governments, we like to talk over them. We're not humble enough to sit and listen. If you look at the way MTN operates across its opcos, one of the core things you will notice is the humility, is the intentionality. We have our top echelons of our industry, of our organization, going into countries, sitting down, talking to them, and genuinely asking, we're partners. Remember our ethos, what we believe. MTN believes that every African deserves the benefit of a modern connected home. This should resonate with every government in Africa because they want the same thing. We're humble enough to know that we don't know it all. We're humble enough to go to them and say, this is what we believe. We think it resonates with you. How can we help? What can we do? And then I think if you look at the governance aspect, we also need to be humble enough to know that the realities of every country is different. And therefore, the way you deal with them should be different. There's always that fear that if you interact with government, there's an element of a governance challenge. We haven't found it to be so. It's almost always a function of your own sincerity in dealing with them. Because these governments, when you are genuine and humble and you engage with them, they will teach you actually. They will show you, and you can partner with them from a place of respect, from a place where your own governance issues will not be challenged in any way. I think it starts with that knowledge that you need to be humble. You need to know that you don't know it all, and you need to understand that government itself has an agenda for its people, which aligns with your agenda for the people. And you have to find that congruence and work together.
So if you look ahead now, next 5 to 10 years, do you think we're on the right path?
We will always have challenges, but I think Africa is moving forward. We're standing in beautiful Kigali. We can see what the government here is doing. You might look across Africa and say, oh, there are challenges in some places, but there's progress. We just have to keep at it. You know that story of the guy that was trying to break a boulder and hit it 1,000 times, and at the 1,000th stroke, he broke. The question is, was it that one stroke, or did the 999 other strokes count? Do you understand what I mean? So it's like pedaling uphill. You just have to keep at it. You keep working at it. And like I keep saying, it's a partnership. There will be challenges. But if you're humble, you're respectful, and you're focused, and government itself is focused on this is about Africa for Africans, you will find a way to make it work.
So
I believe it. I've lived it. MTN is living it.
So we remain optimistic.
Completely and totally. We trust in the continent, we are focused on the continent, and we know as we progress, the continent will progress. We have no doubts.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time in the conversation. Thank you, Tobe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That was Tech Africa News from MWC 2025 in Kigali. You can find more on techafricanews.com.